Very recently, Charlie Kirk was murdered. He was assassinated. And I just thought as a Christian pastor, I'd make a few reflections that might be worth your while. If you're not a Christian, this might sound like gibberish to you, and I understand that, and I respect that. I just think you're mistaken. There is a God. He's very real. And God has created human beings to make their own decisions. He does not coerce us and force us to do things. And because of that, another thing arises within the human heart called evil or sin. Of course, there is an evil being, a real evil presence. Evil in the world is all through Jesus' ministry in the New Testament. But Jesus said it, of course, perfectly in Mark 7 that come from within the heart is human evil. It's from within us that makes us want to murder. Jesus said explicitly in Matthew that he doesn't, we've been told not to murder, and we have in the Decalogue, the so-called Ten Commandments, but more than that, he says, don't even hate your brother. In this American culture in which we now live, people don't like to say the word sin or evil. Instead, we say mentally unfit, mentally ill, or if the victim happens to be non-white, then we just say they're just a white supremacist or a MAGA and so forth. In the Christian worldview, we don't classify those kind of behaviors based on a person's skin tone or even a mental illness. We call choices what they are by the moral weight, that is, whether it's moral or immoral, sinful or righteous. If it's a moral thing, not every single choice is moral. Charlie Kirk was murdered, and murder is evil. It's a sin. And it was done by a person who wanted to murder him. It wasn't an accident. This person had to have practiced his shots and made very particular choices and decisions where to sit or stand or whatever. It's very sad. It's very sad no matter what Charlie Kirk's views are. He has a family, children who will grow up without their father, a wife who will now wake up for a long time expecting him to come back right back to bed. It is very sad. And American politics was also sad too. I don't know even who the shooter is at this point, and it's very difficult, certainly from a therapist perspective, to know if there's one particular cause for a person's choice. We're very multifaceted, mysterious creatures. But it is indicative of a particular narrative that we find in what we call the left, and that is when you continue to villainize and demonize people who disagree with you as the worst conceivable thing, fascist and Hitler and this and this and this, it does breed this kind of behavior. That's what happens in these kind of social settings, and it's horrible, it's despicable. There is a real genuine contempt that large swaths of American culture have toward people who disagree with them, particularly toward Republicans. It just is. And that contempt, that kind of contempt, that is to think they are overwhelmingly morally superior. There is a kind of contempt for people with whom they disagree, particularly Republicans. And when you have a kind of contempt that someone is beneath you, existentially, morally, it breeds a type of justification, a moral justification to get rid of that thing. We have, as humans, contempt toward trash, and so we discard it, burn it, we throw it, we cut it up, we don't care what we do with it. When you treat people with contempt, the same type of behavior arises. It is precisely that kind of contempt for people with whom you disagree that the Nazis have for the Jews. It's the same kind of contempt that led to their behavior. You can't morally feel justified at all when you murder people. You do feel justified when you murder subhumans. People aren't really human. You also feel justified to kill people or murder people if you still think they're human, but they are viscerally wretched, sinful people. It's the same mindset they had for a long time in America, North America, when they thought they were witches, and they would, that person's a witch or a warlock and so forth. If you really do think someone has sold their soul to Satan, you would feel justified in killing them as quickly as possible. It's a shame. It's a real shame that in American politics we've come to this place where people not only just report their view of something, but just to have a view itself is to put you at risk of being murdered. I've noticed in my own life as a pastor, when I try to talk about ethics or Jesus, religion, politics, anything with another person, you feel a bit of the pensiveness or anxiety to even discuss the topic, because even to discuss the topic, for a lot of people, seems to invite rage, fighting, argumentation. This is for any person, no matter what your particular political view is. Charlie Kirk was a Christian, is still a Christian. He's alive and well with Jesus right now. But he was argumentative. Democrats, leftists, everyone can be argumentative. But there's certain topics now that we know that in our culture where it breeds more death. What do you do with that if you yourself right now are coming to grips with this or trying to come to grips with this? It's very sad. What do you do with this fact if you're trying to come to grips with this? And perhaps I myself didn't know Charlie at all personally. I only knew his work a little bit. But watching the video, watching him getting shot and watching people's response to it, and it's very sad. It should be sad. Unless you're a psychopath, sociopath, or some kind of antisocial personality disorder, you feel grief too. If you don't feel grief, again, you either suffer from antisocial personality disorder, or perhaps you just work for a particular political agency or company or news station that for this is good news for you. It's vindication. You're celebrating that the contemptible piece of trash Republican finally got his due. If you're not on that side and you're watching this, what do we do with people who have that view? What do we do with the people like the Nazis who had contempt for Jews? Well, the Christian perspective, of course, Jesus made this very clear. We love them. We love them. Love means I care for their good. Christians don't enact violence. We don't murder people with whom we disagree. We don't harm them. We don't hurt them. We don't loot. We don't cause mobs in the street. We don't steal clothes in response. We don't burn down buildings or blow up police cars to demonstrate rebellion. We see this through every single instance in the New Testament that's ever talked about when it comes to the government. We're never told to rebel or cause chaos. Jesus was asked the most pressing, controversial question of his day politically, which is, do we pay taxes or not to Caesar? And the short answer is sure. If that's what he wants, give him your money. You give God what's God. You give to him what he thinks is his. So Christians don't murder, even when we're very angry, even when we're very sad. Before I give some pastoral tips on grief, I just want to encourage you as well. Christians, please, act like Jesus in life and certainly on social media. Sometimes grief can bring out our worst. It can make us irritable, very angry, like I said, and irritable, sensitive, irascible. I encourage you, Christian, everybody, but certainly if you're a Christian, remember that you're a Christian, and that when you find yourself getting really angry and irritable, maybe really short or choppy with family or friends, or want to type some junk out on social media, I encourage you to take a deep breath as much as possible. And we want to make sure we're trying to be salt and light even in the midst of horrible pain. If you're very sad, I encourage you to grieve. I encourage you to grieve, to ask God for his comfort, to ask God to help you grieve and be sad. Oftentimes what we do is we stay in a state of rage and anger because anger feels safer. Anger feels more emboldening, and it's a protective, hard emotion versus a soft emotion of sadness. I encourage you as quickly as you can, as much as you can, get to the grief. Anger is protecting you, but it's protecting you from trying to feel the sadness. Whenever you have any loss, as much as you can, give yourself permission to grieve. Give yourself permission to grieve. The rage you feel when injustice is done won't keep you safe. Rage is never considered a virtue in the New Testament, not for the Christian. As James said, anger just does not produce godliness. Sadness can. Compassion can. It's also very common we watch other people, news, celebrities, people we might know. It might trigger in us deep sorrow, even if we didn't know the person personally. It might remind you of a loss you've experienced. Maybe you had a sibling, a loved one, a parent, grandparent, child. And it will re-trigger those wounds. It's what we call bridging. It'll bridge one sadness with another sadness. That's very normal. It's very common. What's the medicine there? Well, it's grief. It's to give yourself grace. What you don't want to do is fuss at yourself. Things like, I didn't even know Charlie, or whomever dies in the news these days, or I didn't even know them. You don't need to have known them. If you're sad, then you have permission to grieve. If your mind does bring to attention, maybe like a movie in our mind, if it comes to my various things you've been sad about, maybe a loved one you've lost, that's okay, grieve that too. And so that's right, that reminds me of my sadness over there too. That's normal. What do you do around other people who are sad? Do you help them grieve? Paul says explicitly, right? Remember, it says Romans, to grieve with those who grieve, not give a Bible verse to those who grieve. Not try to cheer up those who are grieved, but grieve with them. You can be sad with someone else. Sadness won't harm you, it won't hurt you, you won't go crazy. You just need to cry, you need to be in a sad mood. Give yourself space to do that, and grace to do that. Jesus grieved, we're told to do it. Paul says we grieve just without, not like people don't have hope, but we do grieve. The last thing I just want to say very quickly, just from the Christian perspective, Charlie was a Christian, which means he had given his life to Jesus, he surrendered his life to Jesus. He wasn't just a church person, he wasn't just trying to be a good person. He had surrendered his life to Jesus, which means he was a student of Jesus, a disciple. And because of that, we know for a fact that Charlie's alive and well. His soul left his body instantaneously when he died. That's what death means. His soul leaves his body. And he went to be with God the Father, Son, and Spirit, and those who have gone before him. And he's there right now, feeling the greatest joy and pleasure he's ever experienced in his entire life. And that's good news. That's a real hope. And eventually God will give all those that we have loved, have lost, new bodies, new resurrected bodies. If you don't know who that Jesus is, I encourage you to get to know him. Life is short, and it is a gift. And it is good. It is a good to use this loss to help you get a relationship with God that's right. And that can only be done through Jesus. That's what Christians believe about death of loved ones. We believe this because Jesus taught this, and Paul taught, and the early church taught it and believed it too, that through suffering, through enormous grief, God not only comforts us, but can bring good from it. That is the heart cry of a Christian, that my life and my death might be for his gain. Paul said this in Philippians 1:21, to live is Christ, to die is gain. We want to live in such a way, and even in our death, live in such a way, or die in such a way, that in some way we're bringing glory to the Lord Jesus and furthering his kingdom. I think Charlie has done that. I think he will do it. I think in the weeks, months, and years ahead, it will bring much good. And I pray even revival, that in the midst of that horrible, horrible sorrow, that horrible, wretched sin, God might redeem it, and he might make beauty out of those terrible ashes. If you have any questions or comments, let me know below. I love you, and I'll see you next time.